takes it in overtime. Brady can chop, breakaway shoots, scores!
Welcome to SENS Talk. My name is Brandon and I am your host. Tonight, Ottawa took on the Chicago Blackhawks in a game in which is literally the definition of a trap game. Going into this game, Ottawa is only 7 points out of a playoff spot with a few games in hand. So if they win a game like this against one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League, they can really start to claw their way back with games in hand. But they have to win and they have to get the 2 points tonight. It's a classic trap game. The Chicago Blackhawks going into tonight's game have lost 22 plus games this season by 3+ goals. That's absurd. On top of that, they have averaged the least amount of goals per game this year in the National Hockey League with less than 2 a game. So it's a trap game, but guess what? It's a sold-out building, and it's a high-emotional night because tonight was Chris Neil's night. Nealer, the Senator legend, his number 25 will be hung to the rafters. No one else in Senator history, as it should be, will wear number 25 again, and I do not care. I cannot say this enough. I do not care what people outside of the Ottawa market have to say about this jersey retirement. They have no understanding of how important Chris Neil was to the Senators on and off the ice. I mean, Chris Neil is a class act. We all know that. But off the ice, I mean, his charitable work, the way he's, really ingrained himself to the Senator and Ottawa community is beautiful. And then on the ice, absolute warrior. He wore his heart on his sleeve. He bled countless times for this team. He did not want to play for any other team except the Ottawa Senators. He opted to retire instead of playing for the Canadiens when Ottawa did not give him a contract back in 2017. He said, you know what? I'd rather hang up the skates than play for another NHL team. Chris Neil is a definition of a loyal Ottawa Senator, a warrior, and an absolute legend. So congratulations to Chris Neil and his entire family on such an incredible career and an incredible moment and an incredible, ceremony. It was beautiful. Of course, he teared up there. His father, I believe, teared up as well. It was a beautiful, beautiful speech that he did there at the Canadian Tire Center after the speech and after the ceremony with the, the jersey being put to the rafters. It was his idea, Clara Hanna reported after. It was a very good idea. He walked through the penalty box to exit the ice, which I thought was just the perfect ending to a great ceremony. And here are some fun stats from Chris Neil and his incredible career with the Ottawa Senators. In 15 seasons, all with the Ottawa Senators, he's compiled the most hits in Senator franchise history with 2,568 and the most penalty minutes with 2,522. In those 15 seasons, he got 250 points, 112 of those were goals, and 1,026 games played, third most in Senator history. He also got 12 game-winning goals, and in the postseason, he played 95 postseason games, I believe. He got 9 goals, including, of course, that first goal in the Stanley Cup Final, and that game-winning goal against the New York Rangers back in 2012. So once again, hats off to Chris Neil on a hell of a career, and my favorite stat about Chris Neil's career, it's not the goals, it's not the hits, it's not all the big fights like that one with, Zdeno Chara, where he threw him to the ground. It's the fact that through all the enforcement, as one of the premier enforcers of the game, he got suspended a grand total of 0 times. 0 times. By far the cleanest enforcer, potentially, in Ottawa and, frankly, NHL history. So once again, congratulations to a class act, Chris Neil. Well-deserved. I do not care what people outside the market have to say about this. Well-deserved. Every moment of it. So once again, congratulations to Chris Neil. And by the way, I have a bit of a funny story I just want to mention really quickly before we get into the game recap. While we're on the topic of Chris Neil, so you can see, I'm going to make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, so you guys can see that right there. That is me right there. That is Chris Neil. This is back in 2014 at the SENS Skills competition. Funny moment. I put out a Twitter thread about this earlier, but I'll just run through the story quickly. So that was the time I interviewed Craig Anderson, which, by the way, you can watch on this channel. You can find it. Really fun interview there when I was really young. I mean, the height difference with me and Andy was crazy. But back to the story. So I was sitting on the bench as a part of that experience, and I was a tough... I wanted at 14, I thought I was a tough and, I thought I was much stronger than I was, that's for sure. And when somebody kicked me in the back on the bench, I was about to turn around and be like, what the hell? Act all tough and whatever. I turn around and I see it's Chris Neil. And I swear, my heart dropped. I never stopped in my track from saying something faster in my life. And Chris Neil, he knew I was going to say something, but he also knew that I shut my mouth quickly. He could tell by my reaction. He gave me his classic grin and a little bit of a nod and walked away. So the moral of the story basically is, watch what you say because you don't know if you're going to be pissing off a guy like Chris Neil. And going face to face a few feet away from a guy like Chris Neil is as intimidating as it gets. So that's a little bit of a funny story there. Nealer is such a good sport, and obviously that kick to the back that I received was obviously an accident, and I just wanted to share that story. It's such a funny little moment I had there with Chris Neil, and it's kind of crazy he was kind of captured there in the Ottawa Citizen. The next day when I saw it in the paper, I was flabbergasted when I saw this picture. But yeah, that story is always a favorite of mine because I was about to act all tough as a 14-year-old. I turn around and phew, all that confidence out the window when I see Chris Neil. So, absolute legend. Congratulations to Chris Neil. Just an absolute class act. Now, let's get to the first period of play. And 45 seconds in. Talk about a bad start for the Ottawa Senators. Drake Batherson turns it over. Patrick Kane puts it home on a one-time feed. They give the Chicago Blackhawks the 1-0 lead. Obviously, Kane's going to bury it from there, and the Chicago Blackhawks lead 1-0. And after that, frankly, Ottawa and Chicago went toe-to-toe in the first period of play, but the Hawks would lead 1-0 after 20 minutes of play. So we move on now to the second period of play, and 7 minutes in, Ottawa finally gets on the board. It's Shane Pinto with a tip out front to tie it up at 1 apiece, with Derek Brassard shooting it from the point. This goal moves Shane Pinto for third in rookie goals in the National Hockey League. The goal also, like I just said, ties it at 1 for your Ottawa Senators. And once again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is a trap game for the Ottawa Senators. This is a game they have to win. If they want to be a playoff team, if they want to be serious about, pushing for the playoffs in the second half of the season, they got a few games in hand. This is one of them. They're only 7 points out. A win tonight would put them 5 with a few games in hand. It's a must win. So we go to the third period of play. It looks like Ottawa received that message. 2 minutes in, the former Chicago Blackhawk, Alex DeBrincat with a sweet pass to Claude Giroux, who slides it 5-hole. Ottawa takes their first lead of the night. It's 2-1 Senators, as Claude Giroux now has 7 goals in his last 8 games. It's unbelievable. Claude Giroux, he's been such a great pickup. That's G-Money's 22nd goal of the season. That's already more than he had all of last year. Claude Giroux, how do you do, my friend? What a season for you. 3 minutes later, Tim Stützle holds the puck to force the defender towards him. He slides it to Drake Batherson, who feeds an undetected Brady Tkachuk to make it 3-1. Ottawa extends their goal lead to 2. It's 3-1 Senators. What a celly there from the captain, Brady Tkachuk. The Nealer celly as he pumps up the crowd. That's also 45 points on the year for Drake Batherson, a career high. But what a celly there for Brady Tkachuk. I mean, the classic Nealer celly. The crowd was on their feet, and it looked like the Ottawa Senators were going to escape after a tough start with the 2 points against the Chicago Blackhawks. But guess what? That's not how things would end up. With about 8 to 9 minutes left in the game, Ottawa's on the power play. They win the faceoff. Thomas Chabot cannot control the puck along the blue line. You got to get your body out there, Thomas Chabot. You got to get your body out there. The puck goes by him, and Lafferty goes off on a breakaway, and guess what? We got a 1-goal game. Shorthanded goal for Lafferty. His 4th shorthanded goal of the season makes it a 3-2 game. Chicago is back in it. 5 minutes later, with less than 4 minutes to go, unbelievable. Patrick Kane, tie game, 3-3. Matt Sogard, I don't know what else you want him to do here. I mean, the guy was left out to dry throughout the entire game. He's the reason Ottawa had that 2-goal lead, frankly. Against a team like Chicago, the amount of chances they had against Matt Sogard, unacceptable. I don't care if Jake Sanderson's out of the lineup. They are literally icing a glorified AHL team, and I mean that without any disrespect. I mean, no disrespect, Chicago fans, but let's be honest, you're tanking, right? So your lineup is absolute garbage, okay? You have a few good players, that's it. And Ottawa gives up back-to-back goals in the last 10 minutes of the third period in front of a sold-out crowd during a jersey retirement game. I mean, come on! Embarrassing. 3-3. We go to overtime. And yeah, you know what was going to happen. Anthony Ciu wins it in overtime for the Chicago Blackhawks. They come back down from 3-1 with less than 10 minutes to go in the third period of play. They win it 4-3 in overtime. In Ottawa, they get the 1 point, but they desperately need the 2 points against a team like Chicago, who has no aspirations whatsoever to win. Their star player, Patrick Kane, is openly talking about what team he wants to be traded to. They have no aspirations to win. The Ottawa Senators have every reason to win, and they lost tonight. Embarrassing. In front of a home crowd, sold out crowd, with the SENS alumni in the crowd, Chris Neil, Alfie, Phillips, Vermette, the list goes on. They lose. And it's embarrassing fashion they lose. And it's unacceptable. So, for all the people, including myself, that kind of got suckered into believing the playoffs are around the corner, tonight was, once again, another glaring example as to why this team is not even close to a playoff team. And once again, I don't want to hear the excuses about Jake Sanderson being out of the lineup. Ottawa was icing a far better team than Chicago Blackhawks. This one should never have been close. And more importantly, the amount of opportunities Chicago got throughout that entire game, it's laughable. I mean, it's laughable. And by the way, I don't mean to zero in here on Tom Chabot, but that goal, I mean, get your damn body out in front of the puck. I mean, what are you doing there trying to scoop it up with one hand? Are you Toskalov to Toronto Maple Leafs back in 2009? Put your damn body in front of the puck. That gives the Hawks some life. Patrick Kane would tie it up there, of course, and of course they win it in overtime. And the Ottawa Senators, just yet another embarrassing loss. You know, throughout the first half of the season, in the first 10 games, Ottawa lost like their first 7 or 8 by 1 goal. Those games, of course, are going to cost us, but games like this are going to cost us too, because these are games you have to win. Chicago has no aspiration to win, and you lost it. So I don't know what to say. I got nothing else to say, frankly. It just sucks that such a fun, exceptional night for an incredible human being in Chris Neil was spoiled by such a piss-poor effort by the Ottawa Senators in the last 10 minutes of the third period of play. And, you know, they're playing again on Sunday against the St. Louis Blues, who are kind of iffy this year. They're definitely better than the Chicago Blackhawks, so hopefully they rebound there. But just a disgusting loss, frankly. Just a disgusting loss. And it's so bittersweet once again because the ceremony was beautiful. That third goal to Tkachuk was so beautiful. The celly was incredible. And it looked like Ottawa was going to run away with this one. And then they collapsed in the last 10 minutes against a team that, frankly, they had no business collapsing to. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys continue the conversation down below in the comment section. I've got nothing else to say. I am just flabbergasted. I can't believe the Ottawa Senators, on such a special night with the alumni in the crowd, the sold-out crowd, the energy. I mean, the crowd was really into it tonight. They find a way to lose against a team like Chicago, who doesn't even score more than 2 goals on average per game. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's happened so often this year for Ottawa that, honestly, I'm not ranting. I mean, I would have ranted earlier in the season if this happened, but I'm just used to it at this point. I mean, the Ottawa Senators just continue to find ways to lose, and good teams find ways to win. Bad teams find ways to lose. I say that every single time this type of thing happens to the Ottawa Senators. I will say it till the day I die. The Senators find ways to lose, and until they stop doing that, they're going to continue to be a bad team. Besides that, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Go Sens, go.